Kyle here from All Media Reviews, here to do another video about just like stuff I've kind of gone on sports related in the blog. So three primary topics over the last few weeks. One, Paige Bueckers, of course, won the national championship with UConn. All I never actually I recorded but never published the video. I did kind of talk about her and Caitlin Clark. It was last year. Um, I think I'll stand by my stance is that if she's healthy, she will be a better overall. She, her her accomplishments. I guess it depends on what happens. You judge it as accomplishments, but she has the potential to be a better player than Caitlin Clark. I'm not talking about statistics. I'm talking about impact of her teammates. Kind of like a Magic Johnson kind. She's more of that type. Um, Magic and I don't know. She's a more well-rounded, higher basketball IQ type player. Caitlin Clark is a great shooter. Paige Bueckers, to me, at this point, is a better athlete and is a sort of has more skills for basketball. I don't care how many assists Caitlin Clark gets, but it'll be interesting. Paige Bueckers drafted by the Dallas Wings a couple nights ago, #1 overall. I know there's just trolls on Twitter and some of the other, mostly Twitter and YouTube about how nothing like she's not going to compare. She's not even the best player on the team. They won the championship. Certainly, Sarah Strong and AZ Fudd and some of the other players for UConn had a lot to do with that. But Paige is still their best player, and her presence out there. She played like every minute, and of course she's leading up to the Final Four. She was scoring a lot more than even she normally. She had 40 in the one game against Oklahoma. Um, but anyway, even though I don't like Dallas and that whole thing about the Mavericks last year with the Timberwolves and the Dallas Wings are not responsible. There's no reputation. Even though the fan base kind of is similar, I suppose. I'm gonna hope she does well and hope the Dallas Wings do well. Their first game though, the first game of the WNBA season, the first night, is on May 16th, I believe it is, against the Minnesota Lynx at Dallas. So that should be interesting. I do think though there will be ultimately an interest and a push and a likely chance she will end up at some point playing for the Minnesota Lynx. It could be in 10 years from now, but we'll see. But yeah, I was really happy to see her, overcoming the injuries and everything, and you know, if you just look at nothing else at this point, she won a national championship. Neither Caitlin Clark did not. If you're comparing the two, but compared to the other UConn greats, yeah, she's. Although I think athletically, and I agree that Gino Auriemma said she was the greatest, like most well-rounded player he ever had. I would stand by that. Diana Taurasi or uh, the girl from the New York Liberty who traveled and then hit the winning shot. But and more Maya Moore, of course, was at the Lynx, and even Nafisa Collier, who didn't win national championship, but a lot of those other players won multiple. I think I can't think of her name from the Liberty. She won 4, so in that sense, she doesn't quite rank with some of the other greats from Connecticut, from UConn. Oops, including Rebecca Lobo. I don't know if Rebecca Lobo won, but I know they went undefeated. Um, but she did win one, and again, I know Caitlin Clark went to Iowa, and she didn't have the roster, but regardless, that's a objective observation at this point. But the WNBA, I think, is going to tell which one of them is greater and their legacy greater. But I just think she's a better athlete. She's a better all-around player. She's a better defensive player. But it'll be exciting to see. They only play the Indiana Fever twice since Indiana's in the East. But I don't know if there's a chance that Caitlin Clark could come to the Lynx. If she did, it'd be a little bit like Brett Favre coming to the Vikings. Why? I could see that because being in Iowa, she probably grew up a Lynx fan, at least somewhat, because that was probably the geographically closest team. So the second sports item, of course, is the Masters. Rory McIlroy finally wins the Masters and completes the career Grand Slam. I know he choked, he collapsed a few different times the last 11 years. He could have, instead of having 5 majors, he probably could closer to 10. But the pressure is hard to take, and he's a great ball striker. He's not the greatest putter. He's consistent. He's streaky at point. He's a little bit like Jordan Spieth. Jordan Spieth is naturally a better putter than him, but Jordan Spieth gets yips. Kind of like what happened to Ben Crenshaw. But now that he has won the career Grand Slam, I think it's like Phil Mickelson 2.0 in the sense that Phil Mickelson won that Masters in 2004, and then he went on to win four more in the next 9 years. I think Rory will easily do. He could win another one this year, because he doesn't have pressure. He doesn't need to worry about it anymore mentally. It's just a matter of physically, and he's still young enough. He's going to turn 36 next month, but um, I want to see some of the other players do well and win majors still, but I'm still rooting for Rory. If he were to win five more, calculate, he'd be number four, right behind Jack, Tiger, and Sam Snead, I believe it was. I think it was Snead. Snead's the tournament winner. No, was it Sarazen? Anyway, there's only three other players that have more than 10. So he'd pass Phil and a number of other players. But we'll see. That's still a long ways away. Could be where it's 2025, could be 2035. We're still talking about him trying to get his 10th major. But um, anyway, he'll be 46 then or 45. So the last, I mean, I was excited to see that Bryson DeChambeau. I didn't really write about that, but I can't stand the guy. He went to live. He's a, you know, but by a lot of accounts, he is a Trump supporter. So there's a lot of reasons I don't have reason to cheer for. I'm most golf PGA Tour golf for me. I could say tennis. I want to do more with tennis. I want to be following tennis more, but I don't discipline myself. But is the sort of alternative to when my Minnesota sports teams disappoint me and so I generally don't have any players I root against. Occasionally, there's been a few guys that have been less than rootable, like cheerful, but like I never hated John Daly, but I know he was controversial. A couple others. Patrick Reed recently is a kind of a tool, but even though I kind of liked him, and of course he was in the Ryder Cup, I was sort of cheering for him then. But Bryson DeChambeau, he has to change. He has to change my mind. The fact he went to live, and that's the new other thing with the live players is like I love Brooks Koepka, and who has five majors himself. Um, and like Dustin Johnson, especially John Rahm. Those three guys are the three guys that are on live that bug me the most. I just it's more money. There's some other guys on live that I like too, like oh, what's his name? The guy that won he was Australian, I think. Handlebar mustache. I'm spacing on his name, but he won me. I think he won the U.S. Open. U.S. Open or British. Um, Cameron Smith. Yeah, he's a really good player, but he went to live. And Phil Mickelson, of course, was the one who drove it. And I actually grew up liking Greg Norman, but not so much now. Justin Rose didn't win the Masters. He's come close, and he's come close in other majors. He was second in the British the Open Championship last July. Sad that he didn't win. I'm hoping he wins next year. Hoping he wins a major at least because he's almost 10 years older than Rory. And he had this little conflict with Mickelson a few years back, and I was like siding with Mickelson, but now I feel totally the opposite. And he's a really, I mean, but most guys, like 90 some percent of the PGA Tour players I root for, I like to see players play well, make great shots. That's the primary thing. I don't have to worry about my team disappointing me and hating the other team. But there's a few exceptions, and the live thing, unfortunately, has increased it a little bit. So, but that's my take. We'll see at the PGA next month how Rory does. Some of the other guys, but it was a great story. They finally got the monkey off his back, and it'll be exciting to see how he does in the majors going forward, and just in general. And he won Pebble and he won the Players this year, which I don't know if there's ever been a guy that won. I don't know the accomplishment of like certain amount of majors and those two are like winning the Players and a certain amount of majors. I know Scottie Scheffler won both the Masters and the Players last year, but so the third sports item is the big elephant in the room: the Timberwolves in the NBA playoffs. Timberwolves playing the Lakers, who had a record of one game better than them this year. I may try doing a few videos like I did last year if they even just during the series, maybe do one video after the series starts. And my thoughts of this, of course, Luka Doncic, that crazy trade that they traded him to the Lakers. Dallas did for Anthony Davis. And now he's playing the Timberwolves again. I kind of wonder if the Wolves can find a way to beat the Lakers and sort of psychologically get over that, specifically Anthony Edwards. Similar to beating the Suns a little bit last year and because the Suns had their number and had swept them during the season. And I don't know how many seasons they pretty much had their way with the Timberwolves, especially Devin Booker. And then the Nuggets, of course, to some degree as well. Although the Wolves had always played the Nuggets tough, even with when Joker's been there. But of course, they lost that year and the year, but the 2 year private, they lost to Memphis, and then I think they lost 2 years. They lost twice to Denver in the last 4 or 5 years, at least in the playoffs. Pretty sure. But last year, of course, they beat them. The previous year, they had lost to them, and then this year they swept them. But if they would have played them the first round, I still would not have put it past Denver to win, even though they fired their coach, which is weird. Um, but as far as the series goes, so trying to beat Luka after and the Mavericks kind of caught the Wolves, out of gas in the Western Conference Finals last year. It would be sort of getting over that hump, and I don't know necessarily going forward they would always be able to, play the Lakers and beat them with Luka Doncic, but it would be, and the fact that most of the national media and the fans, of course, are just calling that. Well, there's a few of them are saying the Wolves will keep it. It'll be 6 games, or they may have a chance to win. The large majority are picking the Lakers, even though on paper, the Wolves are a much deeper team. The Wolves are a better defensive team. The Wolves are a more physical team. The Wolves are a bigger team. Um, it doesn't necessarily all translate in the playoffs. It's a different game. It's a chess match. JJ Redick is a rookie coach, but he's been around a while. People are singing his praises. And and LeBron is 40, but he still can do enough between him and Luka. Austin Reeves is okay. I think some of the people on the medium, the Twin Cities, the Wolves medium, Wolves people, are talking Austin Reeves up a little more than they should. He's okay. I mean, but could he average 30 points or 25 points or even 20 points for a series? I kind of doubt it, especially if they defend him well enough. But I think Luka's work, both scoring and setting up his teammates, is going to have a big factor. And some of the guys, all the guys for the Timberwolves do. Of course, they played the Lakers on February 27th. That was the only game they played the Lakers where Luka was with the Lakers, Luka Doncic. And the Lakers won 111-102 in LA. Rudy Gobert and Julius Randle were not playing. Julius Randle. And Anthony Edwards got thrown out for having 2 technicals. So it was a different case. I mean, it was a couple months ago. You could say, well, Luka had just been traded there like a week or two before that. I don't know. I mean, I think that it's more similar to the Phoenix series, the Sun series last year, where the Wolves have it, and Anthony Edwards specifically has a chip on their shoulder, and that people are down them, and they're not expected to win. So if they lose, then they're not really at fault. Like, they just need to do things. But if they win, well, everyone doubted them. Now the thing is, let's say the Wolves were to win this series, it's just one round. Then they're in the semifinals. They're probably going to end up Houston or Golden State. At this point, I would say Golden State. So actually, they would have a home court. So then the pressure would immediately be put on them in a way. If it's Houston, then they would end up having. But I think if they played Houston, they might even be favored still. They played Houston well this year. I think they won 3 out of 4 maybe, or 2 out of 3. I don't remember they played, but yeah, it's too bad with the Wolves. They were so inconsistent where they would beat these really good teams even when they were shorthanded, and then they lose these teams, and then they had the meltdown in Milwaukee. And they're terrible, Anthony Edwards included, at crunch time. That's the biggest thing. If the game is within 10 points with 5 minutes or less, I'd say the chances are better they will not win those games. And in effect, if you have 4 games in this series, or let's say 5 games, say if you have 5 out of how many games in this series could go up to 7. Of those games, the game is 10. If they have a lead of 10 or less, or the game, especially if they have a lead, within the last 4 or 5 minutes, I would say they will lose. Unless they do something coaching wise, or something or let's say Luka gets in foul trouble, or something happens to him. Basically, if the game is 10, the lead is 10 or less within 5 minutes, and Luka's in there and he's playing, he's not hurt or not like hobbled, even though he supposedly wasn't last year in the playoffs too. They're gonna have to do something to adjust. I mean, Jalen Clark would be my first thought. Put him on, but he's not. Finch is only going to use Jalen Clark a certain amount. Because if Jaden McDaniels in defending him, they can put someone else and put Randall on him, or put Maybe go to a zone defense. Do something to rattle him. Because I don't see how it wouldn't have the same thing happen. But if they can blow them out, they can blow them out, then they won't be in the case where it's the last 4 or 5 minutes. Last 4 or 5 minutes and it's a 25-point lead. I'll take my chances, even as questionable as the Wolves have been in crunch time, because they're under 500 when that's the situation, especially Anthony Edwards. That's the other thing is maybe Anthony Edwards either some way takes a higher percentage shot and draws fouls, which he had one game he did that, although they didn't win that game, but he kept on doing it. First game it was, where he wasn't settling for threes. Or he sets up his teammates, which would probably be a more practical thing, whether it be Alexander, Naz Reid, someone else drawing the defense toward the end of the game and not turn the ball over. um, and some of these guys like DiVincenzo, I don't know. Maybe they'll end up using some of the younger guys in a desperation, like a foul trouble thing. The foul trouble thing isn't good, but it could actually serve as like a blessing in disguise, depending on the situation, where they put in Terrence Shannon Jr. or Rob Dillingham, and they go off for 15 or 20 points because the Lakers don't have an answer for them. Because the Lakers aren't that good defensively. That's the thing is, on paper, the Wolves are a better team than them. The Lakers just have two great scorers, basically. LeBron James was a good defensive player at one point. And the other thing that the media has said locally, and actually not just locally, is in the Western Conference Finals, the Wolves did not go at Luka Doncic, forced him to play defense. They need to do that, whether it be Jaden McDaniels or depending on who's guarding. They got to have someone else out there. Maybe he ends up guarding Naz Reid. Make him play, make him tired, wear him down, so that affects his ability to do things on offense. And that if you can sort of, the Celtics figured it out. They need if I were the Wolves coaching staffs, I would be watching a ton of film from that NBA Finals last year with they probably have, but I'd just reinforce it. Watch the film on what Boston did, because you look at Boston's roster, while they have a lot of good athletes in perimeter, probably more than the Wolves do. The Wolves have enough between even Rudy, but Jalen Clark, Jaden McDaniels, Anthony Edwards, Nikhil Alexander Walker. They have enough guys that are long enough and good perimeter defenders where they need to see what Boston did and how they basically took Luka Doncic, threw him off. And they basically did what the Wolves should have done. The Celtics did last year. And if they could do that, well, then I'll take my chance with LeBron scoring 30, going to the free throw line. The problem is the fouls. That game, as was mentioned, February 27th, the Lakers shot 46 free throws. The Wolves shot, I think, 26. So they did get to the line a lot, but I think they were just making them up. That in there and of itself speaks to some of the conspiracy crap with Adam Silver and the NBA, and they're just trigger happy. And there's one, animated GIF of Jalen Clark, or just a clip of him, on Austin Reeves in that game on the 27th, where his hand's just up in his face. There's absolutely no contact. He's probably 8 inches away from him, at least, his hand is. And they call the foul. It's on a 3. So, is the NBA fixed? It looks like the NFL is fixed too. They want the Lakers to win, advance. They're the highlights. They're the face of the league team with Luka going there in that trade that was made. It's hard to believe it was made. Why Dallas even did it? But with LeBron being 40 years old, they're going to bring in Bronny and everything. He's practicing, trying to play like Anthony Edwards. Good luck. So, I don't know. We'll see. I will try to, and I'll see, I'm not certain, but I'll try to make a video probably next week, depending on what happens, especially if the Wolves split. If it's 0-2, I don't have a lot to say, just to say, this is what happened. I guess I would still, but if it's a split or the Wolves are up 2-0, I don't know. We'll see. I'll try to make a video because it could be controversial. But my whole point is, even if they were to win this series, they could end up losing the next series or Western Conference Final. I don't know. We'll see. It should be fun to watch. But thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.